Hey guys, Lord here, back in with another action figure review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Masters of the Universe Origins 2000X Cartoon Collection Stratos. Good old Sean Connery. It was actually voiced by the same guy who did Dinobot and Rat Trap and Transformers Beast Wars. That's news to me. But of course, this is brought to us by the fine folks over at Mattel, who will remain fine folks despite the fact that we're just going to cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look-see at all this guy has to offer in terms of accessories, because, of course, what is Stratos without his wings? He's got two of them here. Now, granted, unlike the toy, these are positioned, I'm going to say sideways, for lack of better terms, so when he's like flying, they kind of go like that, and you can hinge them like that, and whatnot. But for the most part, they're not facing the right way, at least not to me, because I'm so used to the toy. Granted, the thing I didn't show you was that you got these two little, we'll call them handlebar pieces, and for whatever reason, I haven't cussed hardcore on this channel in a long time, but I'm going to use some of my swears now, because toy companies, I'm going to tell you this once, and I'm not going to tell you again, do not sculpt a fucking hinge joint that does not work, because my legally blind ass is going to try and move the son of a bitch, and with my luck, isn't very fucking good, if you guys haven't noticed, probably break the shit. Thankfully, this is a softer plastic. I was able to heat it up and remove any stress marks that I might have caused trying to bend it that way. But the fact of the matter is, I bent it in a way it's not supposed to be bent, because it's not supposed to be bent at all. But it's sculpted in a way to look like it should be bent. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they literally sculpted the freaking pin. What? So, thus concludes another rant from Overlord Productions. Go to hell. If you must know, these wings do, of course, attach to his arms, and those handlebar pieces do attach to these little nubbins on the bottom. I just removed them to show you them a little better. That said, why don't we take a closer look at Stratos, whose backpack, thankfully, was not all janky-panky in the box, and hopefully his hands did not suffer the same fate as his wing handlebar things. If so, I'll just take a hairdryer to him, big deal. But as far as his articulation goes, his head can look up not very far for a flying character, but a little farther than some. He can look up and down, he can tilt side to side and rotate. Shoulders can pop out, back down, forward, back. Single jointed elbow. Nothing hindering that, so you can bend it pretty good and rotate it. Wrists, hinge, and swivel. Wrong way for holding stuff, but probably effective enough for his handlebars there. His waist twists, and, you know, again, nothing as far as the belt pushing up on the torso, for me at least. Again, I think people just need to learn how to use a hairdryer. That can be fixed. His hips can kick out and kick back down, forward and back. It's got a little bit of a thigh swivel in there. Single jointed knees with rotation. Not for nothing, I haven't had the worst luck with the knees on these. This guy's about average. He-Man's really solid. My Man-at-Arms, on the other hand, he's got a little bit of a wonky knee I had to fix, but this guy does have the calf swivel with the hinge in the foot, which is really tight, so that kind of makes up for the knees. And then he's got a rocker as well. So, why don't we give him his wings? Start by popping off the hands. And by the way, I still do not like these pegs, these little arrowhead-shaped pegs. I prefer the, whatchamacallit pegs, the circle pegs, the big, thick, chunky monkey pegs that Masterverse use. But I get that they can't really use those on these guys because they're smaller. So I guess we'll just have to suck it up and deal with it. There we go. So there's one wing on. Trying to remember which one of these went on which side. I want to say this one went over here. They're not keyed, but there we go. Pop that in. These are not hard to pop off and on, by the way. They're pretty loose on there. The whole point is to slip these into his hands. I would recommend bending his hands a little bit, so you can push that in there, like so. And there is one wing, just one, all ready to go. Granted, if you wanted it to be more like the toy, you could swivel this, and then the wings would be pointing the correct way. At least to me, you just have to spin his hand around. You'd be holding it more like a handlebar. So you could do that, but you would have this piece on the bottom. That is the only caveat with that, so we'll leave that like that for now. And then we will take his other hand off. Which of the two wrists, the left one was the tightest on mine. There we go. I'll also say the backpack doesn't have a tendency to fall off on mine either. I don't know if that's a common thing with everybody's or not, but I also don't try to manhandle my stuff other than bending these things, because literally I bent this shit like all the way forward because I thought it was supposed to move. I even heated it up because I thought it was stuck, but no, it wasn't. It's just sculpted to look like it moves. I think the last time I had a figure like that, like a new figure like that, it was that I call him Roly Poly Robot Spawn, but that's not his name. It's like some Mecha Spawn, Cyber Wars Spawn, something like that from last year. Because he had an elbow joint that was clearly sculpted to look like it moved, and it didn't. And that is crap. I don't know why they do that. That is some Small Soldiers bullshit right there. Because they had sculpted joints that didn't work. But those are a little more obvious. The sculpts were much softer on those because they're old. And, you know, this straight up looks like it's two separate pieces. So, there you go. I guess maybe if the pin wasn't sculpted there, I wouldn't have thought it moved. Let me... Yeah, just leave him like that. But there is Stratos with his wings. He looks good. He looks like 2000X Stratos. I just wish the wings were positioned on the side instead of, I don't know, sideways. So, with that being said, it's time now that we move right along and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is good old Stratos, alongside a couple other heroic warriors from this 2000X cartoon collection line. We have Man-at-Arms, aka Duncan, aka Uncle Phil, aka OG Shredder from TMNT. He's been a lot of things, let's be real. And then we also have one of my favorite heroic warriors. We have Mossman. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that if there is a wave 5 of this line, which I hope to God there is. I know they're being lame and putting everything on pause for movie crap right now, but please give us a wave 5 with Evil Seed, Trapjaw, Whiplash as a deluxe, of course, and whoever else. I mean, personally, I would love a faceless one, but we should probably get like a Mecha-Neck or a Manny-Faces or something, or else the world might explode. But Mossman here, one of my favorite heroic warriors. I like his kind of swamp thing, Sasquatchian nature. And in this show, he was really freaking cool, especially in the fight with Evil Seed. Again, really hope we at least get him to go up against old Mossy here. But we're not talking about him, we're talking about Stratos. And as far as comparisons to his fellow heroic warriors are concerned, he scales quite nicely with them. I mean, they're all pretty much the same height. Some use the same parts, but at the end of the day, it's all Origins all the time. And unless you're going to put this guy with, you know, the more vintage toy-looking Origins, he's going to be more in scale. I guess the Filmation Origins would be a little out of place, too. Because I think they're a different scale also. Why is there, like, 3 different Origin scales? I never understood that. Why don't we bring in our 2 regulars? That's something I do understand. Brother Mandiboleth. And of course the infamous 11 Spawn. Another thing I understand is that good old Al Simmons, as usual, towers over everyone. So with that being said, it's time now that we wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and aside from the, lack of a better term, handlebars being somewhat problematic if you're not in the know, I'm going to go out and say that good old Stratos here is, at least in terms of the heroic warriors anyways, one of the better ones from this 2000X cartoon collection line, which is ironic because 99.98% of the time, Stratos freaking sucks. He's boring, he's uninteresting, he's bland, he's basic, he's just sucks. But with the exception of this version and the 2 from Masterverse, I gotta say, Mattel has done some great things for this character. A character that, once again, doesn't usually do it for me. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, catch you guys later.